Ladies and gentlemen, I am back. I am back. I am back. New York Giants on SI YouTube channel. That is where you find me, Coach Gene Clemons. A giant issue. Like, just if you had popped in earlier, you saw that I was here for probably about 8 minutes, and then there was some stuff and some technical difficulties. I just had to shut it down and try to hit a reset button. It is a madhouse on Media Road today. All of the people that are here, all of the energy that's here, that I'm surprised that I'm able to live stream right now. I'm going to do it as long as I can because Thursday is normally the craziest day on Media Row. And if I'm being honest, like the Media Row this year is smaller than it's been in past years. So it feels even more frenetic. It feels even more packed. It feels even more congested. It is I would say that it can be like a sensory overload, but luckily, like my ADHD superpower is the ability to be able to kind of like click into different things at different times while also keeping one like main focus going. So while my brain has a million different things going on, and you'll probably rarely see me look at the camera, you'll just see me looking around, is because that's the ADHD jumping out and trying to process all the other things that I'm seeing. Like Tyrod Taylor was just behind me. He's probably the best dressed, football player in, a best dressed player in the National Football League. If not the best dressed, one of the best dressed, right? So that's always fun. Then it's fun to see like football players outside of their uniforms, just to see how many media people really know who these players are. Like, I think that's what really separates like true fans of the sport from people who are just kind of around the sport. Is true fans of the sport can tell you what those football players on the team look like outside of the uniform without the number on, right? There's a bunch of people, like there's a bunch of you Giants fans out there who, if I put the Giants in front of you with a jersey on, you know exactly what number. Oh, it could be like the fourth string linebacker. Oh, that's hey, no, that's a right. Like you'd be able to do that. But if I just put them in regular street clothes, how many of those guys could you like point out and go, oh, that's Chris Board, right? Like, oh, that's like that's what I mean. Is like when they're just, and it doesn't, and I don't want you to think that I'm saying that you're not a real fan if you can't, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that when people get really, really locked in, like really, really invested, like you're almost forced to be when you're in media, right? Because I want to quickly be able to identify faces that I want to, try to grab, maybe talk to, maybe get some information from. If I can't identify them, then that doesn't really do me any good. So, like, that's where I am. But between the athletes that are like, larger than life human beings, the ones that are coming through with entourages, and 10 and 15 people, but they're also being followed by another 10 and 15 people in media that are trying to get a clip or a soundbite. Then you have the various media outlets who have anywhere between the people who are coming out here solo and just getting it in and grinding like me, to people who are coming out with, 10 people in their group, and they're moving as a unit, and they're turning over and churning out content left and right. Like, salute to them. Then there's the big conglomerates where there's like, a contingency of like 30 people that are out here, and they're all, cranking out their daily shows that they do live on the outskirts of Media Row. So all of those things are fun, and all of those things are great. That's what makes it a great week. That's why it's not just the Super Bowl on the field. It's the Super Bowl, in my opinion, of sports media. Because where else do you get the convergence of the big name media and the media that may not have like a name? And it's not just for the two teams, it's for anything that is football like related. Like I look around, most of these most of the entities that I see out here, they're not entities that are specific to one team or to one fan base. They're shows that talk about a lot of things. Then you do get the people who come out here and represent one entity, right? You get the ones that come out and they represent one thing only, or one fan base and one fan base only. And it might not be the teams that are playing in the championship game. So, like, there's all these different dynamics, like, and then add on to it the social aspect, right? There's just people all over. Some are friendly, some are not friendly, some are beautiful, like really handsome, tall dudes, tall women, short people, everybody just kind of, you know, together. And so it's a great opportunity to, to mix and mingle but most importantly, to keep it football first, right? And that's my thing, is we're going to keep it football first, and then we're going to bring all of the other stuff back in. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about the New York Giants needs. I wanted to talk about the five, in my opinion, what are the five most important um, New York Giants needs this offseason, right? Going into 2025. Because I like when John Harbaugh came in and said, hey, this team, and talked about it being a playoff team in year one, I'm on that same time. Like, I don't have time for people to keep telling me every single year, hey, it's rebuilding. Hey, it's rebuilding. Hey, he just got here. I think that type of patience, that type of patience is not my type of patience. My type of patience is, no, we're going to try to be a playoff team every single year. And if we just don't happen to get there, I'm not going to overreact to not being the playoff team that year, right? It's almost as if just because John Harbaugh said, hey, I want to be, playoffs, now the expectation is if they don't make playoffs, it's going to be a disappointing season. But that doesn't make any sense, right? That doesn't make any sense. Just because he says, hey, I want to, want to be a playoff team, doesn't mean that it's a failure for the team if they don't make the playoffs. Because there could be a lot of things in play as to why they don't make the playoffs, right? Last year, there were teams that were playoff caliber teams that did not make the playoffs. The Carolina Panthers made the playoffs and they had a losing record, right? So, like, that's what we have to understand. That's the world we live in with divisions. Like the NFC, the NFC West, they were able to get three teams into the playoffs. Three. All three of those teams were up for the top seed in the NFC, right? So what happens if the Rams get the top seed in the NFC and not the Seahawks? Are the Seahawks still here? Right? Like, that's the type of stuff that you have to ask yourself. And that's why, like, a declaration of what you want to be the next year is not a, hey, stamp it. If we're not that, then it's a failure, right? Because I'm pretty sure all three of those teams came into the season saying, I want to win the Super Bowl. But is it a failure for the Rams to lose to the number one seed in the NFC? Like, how can that be a failure? Is it a failure for San Francisco to make the playoffs and then lose to the number one seed in the NFC after beating the former champions and doing it without many of their star players on the offensive line, on the defense, on the perimeter. Like they were out there with a bunch of pieces missing. They still had a double-digit season. They had a chance for the number one overall seed. They beat the former Super Bowl champions, and they lost to the number one seed in the playoffs. Like, come on, what are we talking about? By the way, Sauce Gardner is off in the distance. I don't see much of him, but I see his chain. That's what I'm talking about when I tell you guys that it's sensory overload out here when you're talking about like all of the things that you view. Like these football players, like it's not as bad as basketball because football players don't have basketball player money. Like basketball player money is only second to baseball player money, and really it's not really second to baseball player money because the floor of an NBA basketball player is higher than the floor of a MLB baseball player, but the top of baseball is like 50, 60, million a year. And the top of basketball is like they play in a different stratosphere. And the reason why I don't ever really say baseball is because outside of maybe like the Dominican players, baseball players, they don't stunt like that. Like that's not how they get off. And so like the basketball players are number one when it comes to how they stunt with the jewelry. And then it's football players. Like, but when they come out here and they put the jewelry on, man, and you ain't got to worry about nobody robbing you, right? Because you're in a controlled environment with police all over the place and you can just they be stunting. I'm telling you, like the jewelry that they have on, it is impressive. So I don't see him, but I see a lot of his people up there. I didn't tell this. I don't think I got a chance to tell this story yesterday. But yes, Jackson Dart was here yesterday. I don't know if I recorded yesterday I don't know if I recorded yesterday or I went live yesterday before I saw Jackson Dart or after I saw Jackson Dart. But I'm going to tell you guys this. Oh, I know what it was. If you were listening to the Big Blue Breakdown with Paul Dottino last night, I jumped on with Paul for probably about 30 minutes, like late in his show. Probably not the last 30 minutes, but the 30 minutes up until the 2 hour mark. I jumped on with him and I was talking about Jackson Dart. Let me just tell you guys this. I'm going to tell you guys this, and I'm going to be as honest as I can. Iman Perry, you got to stop. You got to stop Iman Perry. Who's still out here watching baseball? That is blasphemous, my friend. Baseball is great. Baseball is Americana. And Emory Hunt at Football Game Plan said I'm about one button away from going shirtless. You darn right. You know what the temperature is right now here at Emory Hunt, a Football Game Plan? You know what the temperature is right now? It is beautiful. That's what the temperature is. The temperature is gorgeous out here. And so I'm going to have this button popped open because that's how the button should be when it's beautiful. That's Donovan McNabb right behind me. You can see him in the picture. He's sitting down for an interview. It looks like the Apostle John is over here, John the Baptist. Like it's crazy. It's just craziness going on, right? But I'm going to tell you about Jackson Dart, right? And I'm gonna have Emory on the show soon because I want to talk about it. Jackson Dart is a star. I don't like. He's not yet a superstar football player, but he is an absolute star. If you guys remember, and I said this on Paul Dottino's show, Big Blue Breakdown last night. Go check that out. Lock in for the full 2 and some change hours that he was on. I said this, and I want to see if you agree with me. And if you do, put it in the chat, right? If you remember the movie, Remember the Titans, Sunshine, right? Sunshine in that movie, he looks just like Sunshine in the movie Remember the Titans. Do yourself a favor right now. Just go and Google it. Don't just Google Kip Pardue. Google Kip Pardue, Remember the Titans. You can put Sunshine in there if you need to. But when I tell you that it's eerily similar, it's not just similar in the look, right? It's similar in the feel. He walked around with an aura, right? He walked around with an aura. He wasn't loud, but you could hear him everywhere, right? He wasn't boisterous, but you could feel his presence. It was very, very interesting to watch how the people moved around him. Like I saw Brock Purdy today, right? I saw Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is not more popular than Jackson Dart, right? Brock Purdy is not more popular than Jackson Dart. I saw Teteroa McMillan, another rookie, a first rounder, right? He's not more popular. Tyler Shuck, I saw Tyler Shuck. Guess what? Not more popular. You could tell it's just a different feel with Jackson Dart. I don't know why, right? Because some of these things don't need explanation. Some of these things don't need a why, right? Some of these things don't come with a why. Some of these things are just, it when you know it. They have that pull, right? If you remember on Remember the Titans, when Petey was talking to the girls, which I actually thought this was a really weird like caveat of the show, because the show was about racial tension, and yet Petey, a black dude, was just comfortable talking to these two white women or these two white girls that were in school, and they were talking, and he was talking as if he was like hating, like the white girl should like him, and it was just weird because that's kind of not what you would do with that level of racial tension that they were dealing with. I digress. But in there, Petey was saying, hey, why y'all looking at him? He ain't do nothing, right? And the girls were all swooning over him as he was outside minding his own business, doing his stuff, right? Movements. The girls were in the window. Deal behind it for me as I'm looking at it is that when you have that certain thing about you, when you have that certain like aura about you, like it doesn't even matter if you're good, right? It doesn't matter if you're good. People just know that they want to be around that. It's magnetic, and they want to attract to that. And as he moved around, like people move around with entourages, so I don't want to make it seem as if he was the only one moving around with an entourage. But it really was a situation where as he moved around, it just felt different. Like it felt like other like sections were like moving towards him to kind of be in his sphere, right? To be within his like gravitational pull. So like as you see it, as you watch it unfold, like I think that's really fly, right? I think it's really fly. So I think he's a star. If he plays the way that I believe he can play, right? If he fully realizes his talent, he is going to be a mega star. He will have all the commercials. Like Baker Mayfield had a bunch of commercials and stuff, and Baker Mayfield's not even good looking. Like like Baker Mayfield's like a meh. Like he's not pulling like Jackson Dart's pulling. And and he was able to be all of those things. And make no mistake about it, Iman, I'm talking about if he realizes the talent, right? If he realizes the talent that he has, if he becomes a fully realized quarterback and he puts his powers to use as a runner, he puts his arm to use, he becomes one of those ones. He will instantly pass other quarterbacks who people think are superstars because he has that look, right? That's all I'm saying. I get it. Y'all don't listen. I care about some of these things. I think some of this stuff matters. And here's why you should care. Here's why you should care, right? Because when your quarterback has that level of magnetism to him, everybody wants to play with him. When your quarterback is a superstar, right? When he combined, like nobody was out here like clamoring to go play with Aaron Rodgers. Even though Aaron Rodgers is super good, the only people who wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers were people who played with Aaron Rodgers before. So they had a rapport. They knew he was like, that thing. Right. So it's like people want to come and play for that. People want to come and be a part of that. People will take less money to be a part of that. People will restructure deals to be around that aura. Like this isn't, I'm not just making this stuff up. Like this is proven. We've seen it before. Guys were going to the Patriots for peanuts just to be around Tom Brady, just to be in that in that magnetism of Brady. Yes, they were winning, and so that mattered, right? But I'm telling you, there's a part of that that helps the winning. That's all. Eli Manning wasn't popular like that, but we got two. Come on, man, stop it. Come on. Eli wasn't popular. Though, as much defending as people did of Eli Manning before he won championships, as much defending that people did of Eli Manning even after he won championships, there was a lot of yuck. There was a lot of yuck seasons to go with Eli Manning outside of those phenomenal seasons that he had. There was a lot of yuck, and people rolled for Eli Manning like it was going out of style. You can't say he wasn't popular. Like, come on, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna act like the man wasn't popular. Um, like if I'm being honest about it, it's the Jackson Dart magnetism is similar to the Shadur Sanders magnetism. It's very similar. It's just something about those guys that makes people want to be around them, makes people want to play with them. Tyler Shuck doesn't have that. I promise you he doesn't. Cam Ward doesn't have that. Cam Ward doesn't have that. Right? Jalen Milroe doesn't have that. They're all talented guys, but they don't have that thing. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens if he fully realizes his talent. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And you got me off on a tangent, and that's a part of my ADHD too. Just get off on a tangent and start talking about something that you weren't intended to really talk about, but I think is really important. It's a part of the game. All right. My top five things. I'm gonna go from 5 to 1. Right? I'm gonna go from 5 to 1, 5 being the least important of the top five, right? 5, the least important of the top 5 to 1, the most important. All right. At number 5 for me is linebacker. And the reason why linebacker is not is number 5 and not higher, right? And Michael, I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that if after I'm finished. I'll come back to it. But number 5 is linebacker. And the reason why linebacker is number 5 for me is because the world doesn't value linebacker. And so it's easier to procure good linebackers than it is to procure some other positions. So while I think it's high need, it's in the top 5. The Giants need to improve that area. And with a new defensive coordinator, most likely a return to a more traditional 30 front style of defense, I can see them going out and grabbing some linebackers that have more of that athleticism that their defensive coordinator is going to want. And so I think linebacker is important. I know that Bobby Okereke, there is discussion about cutting him because they think his cap number is too high, right? Like I know that that's the talk. And I guess I understand it. Like I guess I understand if the talk is about his cap number being too high and that makes people want to get off of him, but you pay for good linebackers, right? So I think in this defense that's coming, this 30 front, where your linebackers have a little bit more protection, I think Okereke should be able to really thrive. I think he should be able to super duper thrive in this situation, right? And so that's something I'm looking at with him, and then adding another guy who essentially becomes like his replacement when he moves on in another couple years or another year or two, right? Who's the next guy up? But it needs to be those super athletic linebackers, and good thing there's a ton of those guys in the draft this year. Number 4 is cornerback, right? Number 4 is cornerback. You can say, I'll say this, Paulson Adebo is there. And I guess Paulson Adebo was decent last year, but he wasn't worth the money that they paid him last year. Not in my opinion, right? I don't think that Paulson Adebo was worth what they paid, or he played up to the standards of what they paid him last year. Now, part of that could be the scheme. And so we'll see what happens. I thought Cordell Flott was really good last year. He deserves to get a contract extension, but I still would love to see them bring in another corner, especially if Deonte Banks is not going to be back. Now, if the new DC wants to give Deonte Banks a clean slate, I'm cool with that. Hey, 1 year try, clean slate, let's see what you can do. Great. Now you have depth, right? Now you have depth. But if he's not back, you're going to need another cornerback. I think that's important. Re-sign Cordell Flott, sign another guy, or reset Deonte Banks so that we can see if we can get the best out of Tay Banks. Also, wouldn't mind seeing him as a full-time return man if that's the way you want to go. Hey, yo, shout out to Michael Rogers, 8513. Thank you for the super. Thank you for a little something. If you want to throw a little something on there, help fund this trip, we greatly would appreciate it. Hey, there's a blonde and a baby right behind me. That baby looks so, you know what? I gotta wave. Babies are just look at me. I think it's awesome. Happy birthday, Scat. Happy birthday, Cam Scatabo. Hopefully he is ready to go. I know everybody acts as if he's just going to be right back to what he was doing last year. I hope that's the case. but he does have a lot of miles on him from college, which is why I think he probably want to go and get another running back in the draft just in case. Number 3 is interior defensive line. Now, some of you guys might be like, well, what do you mean? Why we need interior defensive line? Here's why. If you were looking at the defensive line for the Seahawks that's in the championship game, along with Leonard Williams, who's a monster and should still be a giant, they have 2 other guys who are just big, athletic, like space eaters in the middle. And that allows their outside edge rushers to do what they really want to do, which is hunt. And I think this defense needs that. They need one more guy, right? They need one more guy because Dex now moves back to the 0, right? Darius Alexander is coming on, right? Darius Alexander is coming on. He's going to be better in year 2, so he could be that 5 technique that 4-eye. They need another guy like Darius Alexander, and I think if they have that other guy, then you've got an interior unit that could play together for like the next 5 years before maybe you start to think about moving on from Dexter Lawrence. Like, I think that's very important to shore up the interior defensive line once you've dealt with the linebackers and you've dealt with the cornerbacks, right? And by the way, make sure that you listen to my boy, The Big Moo. Subscribe. We are almost to 3K. I want to be at 3K subs before the Super Bowl. Like, that is the goal. 3K subs before the Super Bowl. So help your boy out. Number two, and right, we had a comment saying that you think that we need to re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson. I agree. Number 2 is wide receiver, but I think the Giants need to re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't know if I'm willing to give Wan'Dale Robinson $18 million a year. That seems a little aggressive, right? For a guy who is a high volume target guy, but only getting barely over 1,000 yards. Like, that's not who I'm giving 18. I like him. He should get double digits, right? Wouldn't mind a 12. Wouldn't mind a 12 million. Wouldn't mind a 14 million, right? Wouldn't mind a 12. Wouldn't mind a 13 million. But 18 million? No. I don't think I'm doing that. And even if you re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson, it does not solve the problem that you have, which is you have no X. Like, Malik Neighbors, for as great as Malik Neighbors is a traditional Z receiver. If you guys don't know, for people who don't understand what I'm saying, I was a Y, right? I was a Y receiver. The X receiver is your big outside receiver, right? Who can be a possession man for you and can take the top off the off the defense on the outside. A Y is a guy who can be an outside big possession guy, but also can move in and possibly even be a tight end, right? 70 something people watching them on. So like what Malik Neighbors is he's a Z. He's a guy who plays off the line of scrimmage on the outside, who you could move inside whenever you need to, right? That's how the Z operates. The X and the Y operate on the line. The Z operates off the line. He's not a big bodied receiver, and we don't need to be out here trying to play him like a big bodied receiver. He's not Jamar Chase from a physical standpoint. And we see Jamar Chase get played a lot in the slot. So even if you were to say, hey, he's Jamar Chase, we see Jamar Chase operate in the slot a lot, right? And so the Giants need a big-bodied receiver, right? They need a big-bodied receiver who can be on the outside, who can play through contact, who could, be physical and make life difficult for cornerbacks to have to deal with. That's the guy that they need. There are some guys in the draft who fill that role. And you won't have to pay exorbitant amounts of draft picks for him. Plax is 1,000% correct. Mike Evans, 1,000% correct. Vincent Jackson, 1,000% correct. Larry Fitzgerald, 1,000% correct. Right? Carnell Tate is not that guy. If you draft Carnell Tate, you're drafting another Malik Neighbors. Right? You're drafting another Malik Neighbors. And so, like, for me, I don't want another one of these guys. I like Carnell Tate a lot. I think he's going to be great for somebody. I just don't think that's what the Giants need, right? I don't think that's what the Giants need. They need a Cortland Sutton type. They need one of those big dudes. That's what they need. And I get, and everybody knows I'm a Slayton fan. Slayton does take the top off the defense, but Slayton is a Z. He's not an X. He's never really been an X. He's a Z. And that's my problem is we have a Z in Neighbors. We have a Z in Slayton. You have a W in Wandell. Right? You have a W in Wandell, purely a slot receiver. Should never be on the outside, right? So you can't necessarily, you don't need to go wide receiver at number 5 to find that. Like if you needed a Malik Neighbors, then it makes perfect sense to go, to go there. And here's the point, right? You don't need a Jamar Chase to go next to Malik Neighbors. You don't need a Jamar Chase to go next to a Malik Neighbors. You need a T. Higgins to go next to Malik Neighbors, right? Like that's the thing. You don't need Jamar Chase because Jamar Chase's best usage is to put him in the slot and just let him absolutely dominate. Right on, Iman. You just said it, right? Sutton, a big wide receiver. Deebo Samuel. I like Deebo, but Deebo's not a traditional X. Deebo is more of a Z with like Y tendencies. Like he's more like an H-back, if we're being honest. Like he's a bit like he's not a 250-pound dude, but he's more like an H-back, right? Can do all of other things in there, but not really like a master of any of them, right? We need a guy who knows how to win on the outside consistently, right? I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Malachi Fields in round 2, and I'll talk more about the receivers that are in the draft because I think there are a few of them that fit this need that you won't have to reach for in the first round. I think you get some of these other pieces that you really need in the first round. Like, for instance, an offensive lineman, and maybe even, I know it might sound blasphemous to y'all, maybe even taking a guy who ends up playing on the inside on the offensive line at guard. People will say, oh, you can't draft a guard that high. And all I keep saying is, if he's a monster, who gives a damn where you draft him at? Just get him on your team, right? So, like, I think that there could be another offensive lineman picked in the first round. I think it could either be at 5, it could be a trade down, but I do think that there's an offensive lineman coming in the future, and I think it's a guard. Because I just believe it needs to be a guard, right? I believe it needs to be a guard. Jordan Tyson is an X type, just not as physical as I like to see my wide receivers, right? Like, not as physical, a little bit more finesse, than I would like. Oh, this is a great question. This is a great question right here. Chef Curtis West says, you're against Caleb Downs in the first. Yes, I'm against taking Caleb Downs. And this is why I'm against taking Caleb Downs. Because you already have drafted 2 safeties that are second level safeties. And I think Caleb Downs is magical at the second level, but you need third level help. That's all. I think he's great, but you have those guys already. Now, if you're willing to say, you know what, we made a mistake, these guys aren't the guy, so now we want to take the guy, okay, but then you're just, I need to hear somebody say, like, we got it wrong. I need to hear somebody say, hey man, like, we got it wrong. These aren't the dudes. We don't need to see Tyler Nubin anymore then, right? Because Tyler Nubin, in my opinion, is a better second level safety than when he's trying to play on the third level. Caleb Downs can play on the third level better than Tyler Nubin, I suspect. But at worst, right, he is going to be a monster at the second level. And so that's why I'm not taking him there. I want a guy that can be more rangy at the third level. I think you can get that guy in round 2, round 3, if you really want to go, if you really want to go safety. Like, I think you can get that dude in the later rounds, right? And so, like, that's really what I'm talking about with Downs. Do you think the schematics with Nagy calling plays will boost? I don't think Matt Nagy is like a genius. I don't think he's some. I think they're going to be what they are. I don't think that there's going to be him scheming wide open wide receivers, because if there was, we would have seen it in Kansas City, and we never saw it in Kansas City. Like, those guys were getting open because they get open, and they were catching balls sometimes because Patrick Mahomes was able to extend plays and then throw it out there. I think you'll see that very same stuff with Jackson Dart, right? So I don't think he's going to scheme open. Do I think that he will call a game that allows the wide receivers to have success? Absolutely. But I don't think it'll be him scheming open anything. Not at all. I'd rather get a cornerback and make Drew Phillips a safety. Drew Phillips isn't a third level safety though. Like, there's a reason why he played slot in college, right? There's a reason why he was a slot guy in college. He's not good on the third level. You don't move somebody good on the third level. You don't move them to the slot ever. If they're in the slot, it's because they weren't good at something on the perimeter or over the top. That's why they get moved. I think you leave Drew Phillips exactly where he is, and you let him be really good there, right? I think you let him be really good there, like super good there, where you don't have to worry about that position, hopefully, right? and then you find someone to play over the top on the third level. Like there's no reason that you have to be moving a guy from a position that they play well to another position that they don't play well, and then ask them to do something they're not good at when you have something that they do well. Can you explain the difference between second and third level? Absolutely. A third level safety is a guy who can play one high, right, as your deep middle safety, or a guy who can play two high as a hash safety. The ability to range, right? The ability to range, the ability to anticipate, the ability to track the ball in the air. Like those are all things that you have to be able to do at the third level. You have to be able to do that while running backwards, back to the basket. I mean, back to the end zone, facing, anticipation, route recognition, being deeper than the deepest, right? Like that's what you're gonna need to do. At the second level, you're playing more um like slots, like slot receivers in coverage. You're playing like tight ends in coverage, really, definitely tight ends in coverage, because your nickel will probably play the slot. You'll play more tight ends in coverage in man-to-man. But then when it comes to like zone coverage, you're gonna play that hook the curl area at 12 to 15, maybe even like 15 to 18. You're gonna play that curl area. You're gonna play the dig and drop in on that dig at 16 yards coming across. You're gonna play those out routes at 10. Like that's what a second level guy is. You're gonna be more handsy. You're gonna be more physical. You're gonna try to get your hands on guys more. Like that's where, and you're gonna support in the run game. That's heavy. You're gonna be a major support in the run game. And so I think that that's where Tyler Nubin excels at. I think that's where Dane Belton excels at. I think they excel as second level safeties, but neither one of them has proven yet that they can be a consistent third level safety, or else they wouldn't have had to go out and get Holland, right? They wouldn't have had to go out and get Holland if those guys had proven. They would have just said, okay, well, let's just do like they were doing with Love and with Xavier McKinney. Both of these guys can play deep. Both of these guys can play the second level. So let's just put them both out there and let them switch off and rotate which one is up and which one's down. If Nubin and Belton had that ability, then we would have seen them do it. But we haven't seen them do it because they don't have that ability. At least not consistently, in my opinion. Right? Do I think they can get better? Yeah. Yeah. Am I going to go into the season thinking that that's the case? Nah. I need something new. Need something different. I have high hopes for Nubin and Banks. Call me crazy, but culture matters for young guys. I agree with Banks because Banks is a guy who is right. I think he needs good role models. I think he needs, I won't say father figures because that's crazy, but just good mentorship, right? And I think when you got Xavier, when they got Xavier McKinney and allowed him to leave, they lost the mentorship. And now they need to try to find it. They need to try to get that back. Yes, a second level safety and a third level safety is the difference between a strong safety and a free safety, except you just don't really hear people calling safeties strong safeties and free safeties anymore, right? And so because I understand what these roles used to be when we called them by traditional names, I think that that's what we're losing. We're just out here thinking that everybody can play everything and they can't. And you're right, Iman, like we like the Giants really fumbled the bag on it. Like they had McKinney and Love and Williams, and they just let them walk for a ham and cheese sandwich. Like I'll never understand it. Never. Never. Um, Harbaugh should consider hiring Jeff Stoutland. Everyone should consider hiring Jeff Stoutland, right? Everybody. But does Jeff Stoutland want to coach, or was his exodus from Philly just him saying, "Hey, I'm tired," or "I'm done with it"? Like, yeah, like Jeff Stoutland should be number one on everybody's list right now as far as guys who are out there to be had. Right? Like that should be the number one name on everybody's list right now. Right? I would also um I would also consider Juan Castillo, right? I would also consider Juan Castillo, but I would be cautious because these some of these older coaches, it's one or two things when you get to them super older coaches. Like I shouldn't say super older, but definitely older. Like, he's 6 years old, right? Number one, do they still bring the juice? Right? Do they still bring the juice? And if the answer is no, then who cares about the knowledge? You can't just have the knowledge without the juice. So if Juan Castillo can still bring the juice, I would put him as a number two. Um, Also, when you get older, it's like, can you handle the rigors? If you can't handle the rigors, can't get you out there. If he can, I would have him as number two. Stoutland, number one. Castillo, um, number two. Now, I don't know all the contractual whatevers that have to deal with these assistants. It could be a situation where Stoutland was, that was the last year on his contract, and he just chose to not, re-sign. Like he said it was his decision. He said it was his decision. So I don't know how that works. I'm not even gonna get into it. I'm gonna leave that to the people who wanna like get into all that. I'm gonna keep it at those are the two guys that I would be looking at, right? Those are the two guys that I would be looking at before anyone else. Outside of that, a lot of the offensive line coaches, the other two offensive line coaches that I would have wanted, they're already off the board, right? Harbaugh lost his offensive line coach to his offensive coordinator. He went with him, right? The Giants had Carmen Brasillo in the building and didn't just wrap him up so he couldn't leave. And so now you're down to the next ones, right? So the guys after that, who knows? Like I'm not going to sit back and tell you guys that I know 32 to 40 offensive line coaches in the NFL, right? I don't even know, as we talk off the top of my head, I don't even know all of the offensive line coaches that are available as far as guys who would be qualified to have this job. I don't know all of the guys who are available, but I will. I'll know them very soon. And so, like, I look at these things, I look at how the moves when it comes to that. That's what I'm looking at. What player from last year's draft surprised you the most? From another team? A guy from last year's draft that surprised me the most. I shouldn't say surprised me the most. I'll say a player from last year's draft that I was really high on that the that the Browns didn't. I'm sorry, not the Browns, but the Giants didn't attack was Harold Fanning. I thought Harold Fanning and the way he plays, because it seems as if the Giants are looking for a legitimate pass receiving tight end. So I don't know why they keep just trying to go get these like big body dudes who have some receiving skill, but they haven't put up legitimate receiving numbers as tight ends. But Harold Fanning was he was the best tight end in football in college, and then he just dropped because people were like, oh well, how They nitpicked him. Instead of talking about what he could do, they talked about all the stuff that he couldn't do. And last time I checked, the only thing I care about is what you can do. And if you can't do it, then I don't have to ask you to do it. Right. So that's where I was with it. I and he surprised me on how well he was able to adjust to his utilization. They used him in a lot of different ways. I thought that was impressive, and I think it'll continue to be impressive. Like, they're really high on him, right? Are people really high on our tight ends, or are they hopeful for the Giants tight ends? Now, you can say it in the chat, right? Are you really high on the Giants tight ends, or are you hopeful that the Giants tight ends will be good in 2026? Right? Well, Theo Johnson, like, are you high on him, or do you just hope he's going to take another step in 2026? I'll tell you what they're not doing in Cleveland. They're not asking if Harold Fanning is going to take another step. They're just really excited about Harold Fanning. And so, like, that to me is the difference. That to me is the juxt, right? So, JT, what's up, my guy? Says, glad to see you live. I like Bellinger. I hearken to the Kevin Boss. Days of good, rugged dudes. Yeah, I like Bellinger a lot. I think Bellinger is a really good, like, number 2 tight end. I don't know if he's a number 1. Like, I don't know if I want to throw him. I don't know if I want to give him 85 to 100 targets, right? Like, do you want to do that? Because if you guys are asking me, I'm 50-50 on Theo Johnson. I feel like some of the stuff that Theo Johnson did this year, any tight end could have done if they were given that opportunity. I don't look at what Theo Johnson did in 2025 and go, I don't look at Theo Johnson in 2025 and go, oh yeah, no, he's a top 15 tight end, right? Or he's a top 5 tight end potential. And that's what I want to be out here trying to get. I want to be out here trying to get top 5 tight end potential. And to me, they had Daniel Bellinger, and they drafted another Daniel Bellinger that maybe is a little bit more athletic with worse hands. So we'll see. Was it a better Theo Johnson in year 2 than it was in year 1? Yes. But do I feel good that year 3? Like, I don't know. So I'm not too sure on that. But yeah, I love both of those dudes as complementary piece tight ends. I don't think either one of them is a main guy, like a guy you want to, like, set it and forget it. What player Giants absolutely need in free agency? That's a good one. I think that might be one I don't want to just spit something off the top of my head without, like, really considering it. But if I was to just spitball, with guys who are heading into free agency, that if the Giants could get them, that it would make a ton of difference, it would be Tyler Linderbaum. I just think that, I don't know why NFL teams don't value centers the way I value centers, but I just think when you have a really good center, it makes everything on your offensive line that much easier. A George Pickens, yes, would love him. Would love a George Pickens as a wide receiver. Are you willing to pay George Pickens $100 million when in another 2 years you're going to have to pay Malik Neighbors $100 million? That's the question. If you're going to do the Cincinnati thing where you're paying two wide receivers like wide receiver number ones, I'm okay with it. I'm on board with it. But they had enough distance in between the first one getting his money and the second one getting his money that they could space it out. You're going to have to pay George Pickens this year and then turn around next year and extend Malik Neighbors before he gets to before he gets to that fifth year where he's going to be top 5 in the league. That's so I like it. I just don't know how you do it with the salary cap being what it is. If the new GM can figure it out, cool beans. But yeah, so like I think that's receivers a top priority, right? I think I stopped on my top 5 right there, didn't I? I probably got off track because my number 1 is interior offensive line. And this is what I'm doing. My number 1 is interior offensive line. I think that if depending upon the type of money that Jermaine Illuminor wants, I would probably let him go in free agency. If Jermaine Illuminor comes out and says he wants like 15 million, 10 million, something, I'm probably letting him go in free agency. But I also can't go out there with Greg Van Roten as my right guard for another season as well. The good news is that you have a guy who you drafted who should be able to either play guard or tackle, right? In Marcus Bowe. So, like, it's either the future is now or the future is later. But this is what I would do. I'm going to let him walk. I'm going to get Tyler Lindenbaum in free agency. And I'm going to draft Jennings Dunker. And I'm going to figure out which one of him and Bowe are going to play guard and which one's going to play tackle. And now I've got Lindenbaum and those two on the right side. I like my chances. Because I know what the left tackle looks like. And left guard is good enough, right? Like, not overwhelming, but good enough. We'll think about him maybe in 2027. But I'm letting Illuminor walk, maybe even sign and trade if I could, right? I'm letting him do what he does. I'm going to draft Jennings Dunker, and I'm going to say, hey, offensive line coach, figure out which one of these dudes are going to play guard and which one of these dudes are going to play tackle, and whatever you say, I'm good with. I'm going to sign Tyler Lindenbaum in free agency. Like, that's how I upgrade and make this offensive line one of the better ones in the entire league, in my opinion, right? I'd rather draft a wide receiver 2 and get a tight end 1 than have 2 wide receiver 1s. I agree. I'd rather draft a wide receiver 2 and get a tight end 1 than have 2 wide end 1s. Chef Curtis, was it yesterday? Yesterday's live was all about the new GM. I love it. Go and see all the stuff that I talked about over there. I'm over an hour. I'm looking at my I'm looking at my Wi-Fi stuff. It might be getting a little bit hectic in here. It's 2:00 Pacific time, 5:10 back on your guys' coast. I hope that the snow is melting. I hope that you guys are coping as well as you can. It's absolutely beautiful here, and I say that to rub it in, right? I say that to rub it in. I would look for the bit by the receiver in the second round. second or third round, and maybe even fourth round, because there's some names that I think will fall in the draft that will be able to do the job that you're looking for. We'll talk about some of those guys later, though. Anyway, I appreciate everybody. Remember, if you want to, drop a little something in that super chats, we always appreciate it. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. We need you. 3,000, right? Like I know, and I love me some Paul Latino, right? Like, but he isn't out here trying to build a subscriber base like your boy is. I'm out here, every day, right? Every day I'm out here telling you guys, hey, like and subscribe. We are 39 subscribers away from 3,000. I would love to get those 39 before the Super Bowl. That way on Monday, I can start harassing you guys about getting the 4,000 subs by the time we get to the draft. That is my goal. And so I appreciate everything, all you guys out there. Shout out to Michael Rogers once again. Really do appreciate that. We'll keep this thing moving. We'll keep this thing going forward, right? We'll keep this thing going forward. And until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.